long before the first pyramids rose from the sands of Egypt, long before kings built their empires, long before history was written upon stone. The Bible tells of a place unlike any the world has ever known. A garden planted by God Himself. A land where life flourished without suffering. Rivers flowed through untamed beauty, and humanity walked in perfect fellowship with its Creator. According to the book of Genesis, this was the Garden of Eden, the birthplace of human history and the setting of one of the most influential accounts ever recorded. But was it only a story? Or did such a place once exist on the face of the earth? For thousands of years, believers, historians, explorers, and scholars have wrestled with that very question. Unlike many ancient legends, Genesis offers something surprisingly unusual. It does not simply describe Eden as a distant paradise beyond human reach. Instead, it provides geographical details. It names rivers. It identifies surrounding lands. It points toward a real world that can be studied, explored, and questioned. That remarkable detail has inspired one of history's longest archaeological investigations. Could the Garden of Eden have been a real location? If so, where was it? Why has no one found it? And if it truly existed, what became of humanity's first home? Some have searched the fertile plains of ancient Mesopotamia. Others have proposed locations stretching from the highlands of eastern Turkey to the shores of the Persian Gulf. Geologists have reconstructed vanished landscapes. Archaeologists have uncovered the ruins of civilizations older than the pyramids. Yet despite centuries of research, no discovery has brought the search to an end. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not that Eden has remained hidden. Perhaps it is that the search has never stopped. In this documentary, we will carefully examine what the Bible actually says, what archaeology has genuinely uncovered, what geography can reveal, and where the evidence reaches its limits. Along the way, we will separate established facts from popular speculation, allowing the mystery to speak for itself. By the end of our journey, you may not have every answer, but you will understand why one ancient garden continues to captivate the imagination of humanity more than any lost city, buried treasure, or forgotten kingdom. If you enjoy thoughtful documentaries that explore biblical history through the lens of archaeology, history, and careful scholarship, consider subscribing to Echoes Beyond the Altar. Together, we'll continue uncovering the stories that have shaped our world. Now, our search begins where every great mystery should begin, with the only eyewitness account we possess. Our journey begins with one of the oldest passages ever preserved in human history. In the opening chapters of Genesis, the Garden of Eden is introduced not as a legend whispered around campfires, but as the very first home of humanity. According to the biblical account, after creating the heavens and the earth, God planted a garden in Eden in the east and placed there the man He had formed. It was unlike any place the world has known since. The garden overflowed with beauty and abundance. Trees pleasing to the eye and good for food filled its landscape. At its center stood two extraordinary trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed out of Eden to water the garden before dividing into 4 great rivers that nourished the surrounding lands. The picture is remarkably vivid. Rather than describing an imaginary realm beyond human reach, Genesis presents Eden as a place connected to the geography of the ancient world. It names rivers, regions, and natural resources, inviting readers to imagine a landscape that could be recognized. For believers, the Garden of Eden is where humanity's relationship with God began, a place of harmony, purpose, and trust. it is also where that harmony was broken. Tempted by the serpent, Adam and Eve chose disobedience over obedience, bringing alienation, suffering, and death into the human story. They were driven from the garden, and according to Genesis, cherubim with a flaming sword guarded the way to the tree of life. Whether one approaches this account as sacred history, theological narrative, or both, one fact stands out. Genesis never presents Eden as an abstract ideal detached from the real world. It describes a garden situated within a landscape, watered by identifiable rivers, and surrounded by named lands. That geographical detail has fascinated generations of readers because it raises a remarkable possibility. What if the author intended Eden to be understood as an actual place? If so, the search does not begin with archaeology. It begins with a map, and that map contains 4 rivers. 2 are immediately recognizable. The other 2 have puzzled scholars for centuries. The Bible's description of Eden becomes even more intriguing when we examine its geography. Genesis tells us that a single river flowed out of the garden before dividing into 4 headwaters: the Pishon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. 2 of these names are familiar even today. The Tigris and the Euphrates still flow through parts of modern-day Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, sustaining one of the most historically significant regions on Earth. Between these rivers emerged ancient Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, where some of humanity's earliest cities, writing systems, and kingdoms took shape. But the other 2 rivers present a mystery. No one can identify the Pishon or the Gihon with certainty. Over the centuries, scholars have proposed dozens of possibilities. Some believe they were ancient rivers that dried up long ago. Others suggest their names changed over time, becoming unrecognizable as civilizations rose and fell. Still others argue that dramatic geological events may have altered entire river systems, erasing the landscape described in Genesis. Modern satellite imagery has revealed the traces of long-buried river channels beneath deserts and floodplains, reminding us that rivers are far from permanent. They shift their courses, disappear beneath layers of sediment, and sometimes vanish altogether over thousands of years. Yet another question complicates the search. Genesis describes one river flowing from Eden before dividing into 4. In today's geography, the Tigris and Euphrates do not originate from a single river in the way the text appears to describe. Does this mean the landscape has changed dramatically since the events of Genesis? Or are we misunderstanding the ancient description? These questions have no simple answers. What they do reveal is that the search for Eden cannot rely on modern maps alone. The world described in Genesis may not look like the world we know today. If the rivers have changed, if the landscape has been reshaped, if entire civilizations have disappeared beneath layers of earth and time, then perhaps the Garden of Eden was not lost, because people stopped looking. Perhaps it was lost because the world itself was transformed. To investigate that possibility, we must travel to the birthplace of civilization itself. Our search now leads to ancient Mesopotamia. If the Garden of Eden once existed as a real place, many scholars believe the search should begin in one remarkable region: ancient Mesopotamia. Known as the land between the rivers, Mesopotamia stretched across parts of modern-day Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. It was here that humanity witnessed the rise of some of the world's earliest civilizations. The Sumerians built thriving cities. Writing first appeared on clay tablets. Laws were recorded. Monumental temples rose above fertile plains nourished by the Tigris and Euphrates. It is no coincidence that these 2 rivers appear in the Genesis account. For centuries, historians and biblical scholars have suggested that Eden may have been located somewhere within this ancient landscape. The fertile river valleys, abundant natural resources, and central role of Mesopotamia in early human civilization make it an understandable candidate. Yet there is a problem. No archaeological excavation has uncovered a place that can confidently be identified as the Garden of Eden. Ancient cities have been found. Royal palaces have been unearthed. Temples, canals, and forgotten settlements have emerged from beneath the sands. But no discovery has revealed the paradise described in Genesis. Some researchers have looked farther south, proposing that Eden may have once existed near the northern edge of the Persian Gulf, where ancient river systems converged before sea levels changed. Others have explored regions farther north, closer to the mountains where the Tigris and Euphrates begin their journey. Each proposal offers intriguing clues. None provides definitive proof. Perhaps that should not surprise us. If Eden belonged to humanity's earliest history, thousands of years of floods, earthquakes, shifting rivers, erosion, and human settlement may have transformed the landscape beyond recognition. The deeper archaeologists dig, the more they uncover the remarkable story of early civilization. But the garden itself remains just beyond their reach. Could nature itself have erased the evidence? Or did one event change the world so dramatically that Eden became impossible to recognize? To answer that question, we must consider one of the Bible's most extraordinary accounts. The flood. One of the greatest challenges in searching for Eden is a simple but profound possibility. What if the world described in Genesis no longer exists? According to the biblical narrative, the flood in the days of Noah was unlike any disaster in human history. If the event unfolded as described, it would have reshaped landscapes on an immense scale. Valleys would have been buried beneath sediment. Rivers could have changed course. Forests would have disappeared. Entire ecosystems might have been transformed. Even apart from the flood narrative, geologists know that the Earth is constantly changing. Rivers migrate over time. Earthquakes alter the landscape. Volcanic activity reshapes entire regions. Sea levels rise and fall. Over thousands of years, these natural processes can erase familiar landmarks and create entirely new environments. Satellite imagery has revealed the remnants of ancient river channels hidden beneath deserts and floodplains. In many parts of the world, rivers that once sustained civilizations have long since vanished, leaving only faint traces beneath layers of sediment. If such changes can occur within recorded history, imagine what thousands of additional years might conceal. This possibility has led many scholars to caution against expecting archaeology to uncover a garden exactly as Genesis describes it. If Eden existed before dramatic geological and environmental changes, its original landscape may simply no longer be recoverable. That does not prove the garden existed, nor does it prove that it did not. It reminds us that the absence of evidence is not always evidence of absence, especially when searching for humanity's earliest past. So where does that leave us? If archaeology cannot yet identify Eden, and geology suggests the landscape may have changed beyond recognition, can science offer any further answers? Or have we reached the limits of what excavation alone can reveal? To continue the search, we must ask a different question. What can archaeology honestly tell us? And where must it remain silent? After centuries of exploration, one question remains. Has archaeology found the Garden of Eden? The honest answer is no. No excavation has uncovered a site that can be conclusively identified as the garden described in Genesis. No inscription points to its exact location. No ancient map marks the way back to humanity's first home. Yet that is only part of the story. Archaeology has profoundly transformed our understanding of the world in which Genesis was written. Over the past 2 centuries, excavations across Mesopotamia have revealed sophisticated civilizations that once seemed almost legendary. Great cities such as Ur, Uruk, and Nineveh emerged from beneath the earth, confirming that the lands described in the Bible were not imaginary settings, but part of the real historical world. Archaeologists have uncovered monumental temples, royal palaces, irrigation canals, cuneiform tablets, and evidence of remarkably advanced societies that flourished thousands of years ago. These discoveries do not prove the existence of Eden, but they demonstrate that Genesis is rooted in the geography and cultural landscape of the ancient Near East, rather than an invented mythical world. Modern technology has expanded the search even further. Satellite imagery, aerial photography, ground-penetrating radar, and digital mapping have revealed buried river channels, forgotten settlements, and ancient landscapes invisible from the ground. Researchers continue to reconstruct environments that existed thousands of years before the present, offering new insights into how dramatically the region has changed over time. Even so, technology has its limits. Archaeology excels at recovering cities, tools, inscriptions, and human settlements. It is far less capable of identifying a place whose defining features are theological as well as geographical. If Eden belonged to humanity's earliest history, and if its landscape was transformed by millennia of natural change, its physical traces may no longer be distinguishable from the countless layers of the ancient world. This is where careful scholarship becomes essential. Responsible archaeologists distinguish between evidence and speculation. They follow the discoveries wherever they lead, even when the answers remain incomplete. That approach does not weaken the search for truth. It strengthens it. Perhaps the greatest contribution of archaeology is not that it has found the Garden of Eden. It is that it has illuminated the remarkable world in which the biblical story unfolds, allowing us to read Genesis with a deeper appreciation for its historical setting. And that leads us to one final question. If the garden cannot yet be located on a map, why has humanity never stopped searching for it? Perhaps the answer lies not in the ground beneath our feet, but in the human heart itself. Whether the Garden of Eden can ever be located is a question that continues to inspire debate. But perhaps an even more important question remains. Why has humanity never forgotten it? Across thousands of years, countless civilizations have risen and fallen. Great empires have disappeared. Entire cities have been swallowed by sand, buried beneath volcanic ash, or reclaimed by the sea. Yet the story of Eden has endured through every generation. Its influence extends far beyond archaeology. For Jewish tradition, Eden is remembered as the place where humanity's relationship with God began. For Christians, it is the opening chapter of a much larger story, a story that moves from creation and humanity's fall to redemption and the hope of restoration. The longing for paradise that begins in Genesis finds its fulfillment in the promise of a renewed creation, where God's presence with humanity is restored. Even beyond the world of faith, the image of a lost paradise has shaped literature, art, music, and culture for centuries. From ancient writings to modern novels and films, people have continued to imagine a place where peace, harmony, and innocence once existed. Why? Perhaps because the story of Eden speaks to something deeply human. Every generation dreams of a world without violence, suffering, injustice, or death. We long for peace in our relationships, purpose in our lives, and a place where brokenness no longer has the final word. Whether expressed through faith, philosophy, or art, that longing appears almost universal. In that sense, the search for Eden is about more than discovering a location on a map. It is about understanding ourselves. Archaeology may continue to uncover forgotten cities, Geologists may reconstruct ancient landscapes. Historians may discover new clues hidden beneath the sands of time. Each discovery enriches our understanding of the ancient world. Yet the deepest significance of Eden cannot be measured by excavation alone. Its greatest legacy is the enduring hope that what was once lost is not forgotten. Perhaps that is why the Garden of Eden continues to captivate the human imagination. Not simply because we wonder where it was, but because, in one way or another, we have all wondered what it would be like to return. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. In the end, the search for the Garden of Eden is about far more than finding a place on a map. It is the search for the beginning of the human story. For centuries, explorers have crossed deserts, climbed mountains, studied ancient texts, and excavated forgotten civilizations, hoping to uncover a clue that might lead back to humanity's first home. Archaeologists have revealed remarkable cities buried beneath the sands of Mesopotamia. Geologists have reconstructed landscapes that vanished thousands of years ago. Historians have compared ancient records, while scholars have carefully examined every geographical detail preserved in Genesis. Each discovery has brought us closer to understanding the world of the Bible. Yet none has revealed the garden itself. Perhaps that should not surprise us. If Eden existed as a real place, the passage of countless centuries, the changing courses of rivers, and the forces that continually reshape our planet may have concealed its original landscape beyond recognition. Or perhaps the greatest purpose of the garden was never to leave behind ruins for archaeologists to uncover. Perhaps its greatest purpose was to remind every generation of where the human story began, and of humanity's enduring longing for what was lost. That may explain why Eden has never disappeared from our imagination. It continues to inspire faith, scholarship, art, literature, and exploration, because it speaks to one of the deepest desires of the human heart: the hope that peace, communion with God, and the beauty of creation are not merely memories of the past, but promises for the future. Whether the Garden of Eden is ever rediscovered remains unknown. What is certain is that its story has survived longer than kingdoms, outlived empires, and crossed every generation without losing its power to inspire. Some mysteries are solved by discovery. Others continue to invite us to seek, to learn, and to wonder. Perhaps the Garden of Eden belongs to both. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's greatest biblical mysteries. If you enjoyed this documentary, please consider liking this video, subscribing to Echoes Beyond the Altar, and sharing it with others who are passionate about biblical history, archaeology, and the timeless stories that continue to shape our understanding of the world. Until next time, keep exploring the echoes of history, because sometimes the oldest stories still have the newest things to teach us.